Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, walking through the Navy Officer Candidate School barracks, 1997, and candidates are all across the street and academics, and myself and another drill instructor, Gunner Sergeant Willette, we're going through the rooms looking for discrepancies. And we found a tremendous amount of wallets inside desk drawers. So I got tired of holding a handful of them, so I went ahead and grabbed a trash can bag and from one of their rooms and started throwing all the wallets in there. But every time I would put a wallet in there, I would first look to see how much cash was in there. Usually it's $20, $15, maybe $30. One idiot had $174. I thought, holy shit. Someone's going to learn a hard lesson in life today. Typically, I'd simply get on the 1MC, which is a microphone that broadcasts anything that's being said through the entire building. Normally, I would get on there and simply say, the following pigs get down to my quarterdeck, bring your rifle with you. And I'd torture them with rifle PT. This was going to be a different kind of pain factor that would be inflicted. I'll tell you more later on.
Oh, and that's how an aviation officer candidate tale begins. Unbelievable. Greeting, everyone. Repeat here. Come to you from New Hampshire. Cohorst Fig, you in town?
I am, well, for a few more hours. I'm in God's country at my house, but I have to leave and go to work. Anyway, it's
a four-letter word ending in K.
Yeah, to welcome back for another episode, Top Crouch.
Stop. Frickin' officers, you should know better. You never use the word top in reference to any Master Sergeant, First Sergeant, Sergeant Major, Master Gunner Sergeant. We are not a toy to be played with.
As candidate France found out. So... couple weeks back, let me just tee it up a little more. A couple weeks back, First Sergeant Crouch sent us the most unique donation for the show that we've ever received, and that was the $174 in loose change. So I'll hand it back to you and go, brilliant. This is a story we didn't cover on the last show, but I have a photo of, and I'll put it up. In fact, I think it'll be the show photo for so there I was.us. How the hell did you come up with this brilliant idea?
Well, I've been gifted with the ability of coming up with creative ways to inflict pain. More times than not, it's psychological pain before it is physical. To me, psychological pain has a lot more enduring effect than physical pain. You do a few hundred push-ups, you're done. You forget about the pain within the next several hours. But psychological pain, that is precious to me. It's one of the greatest things you can do is inflict emotional pain on other people.
Stays with you for life.
People that you don't care about. I don't do that to my family. They may disagree, but I don't intentionally do it to my family.
Yeah, so tell us the rest of that. How did that come about? What happened to poor candidate France?
I thought, man, I need to drive a hard lesson. And of course, one thing that we're taught from day one in the Marine Corps is Marines don't steal, nor tolerate those who do. And I even talk about that at the orientation speech. I'm using these civilian words now. I've been a civilian employee for 21 years. We don't do orientation speeches. We don't do new hire speeches. Welcome aboard speech. And I took the Marine Corps welcome aboard speech from the senior drill instructor. We call it the senior drill instructor speech, and modified it for use at Officer Candidate School for the United States Navy, substituting the word officer with Marine and officer, and substituting the word Marine Corps with Navy. So I talk about the fact that we will never tolerate anyone who lies, cheats, steals, or compromises. So moving on, I thought to myself, He's lucky I found it because I won't steal money. And so that morning, this is probably 9 o'clock in the morning, 0900. I changed clothes because we just finished PT that morning and hadn't showered up yet. So I went ahead and took that money, just the $174, took it out to the Navy Federal Credit Union on base. I asked for nickels, pennies, and dimes. And they said, well, we can't give you that much. I did not realize how cash broke financial institutions are when it comes to loose change that they keep on hand. And it probably proves the point. No one steals loose change. I had to go to 3 financial institutions to get enough pennies, nickels, and dimes so that I could teach a hard lesson. And that evening at about 1800, I got on the 1MC. Officer Candidate France, class 13907. Get your rifle, get down to my quarterdeck, boy. It's time to collect your dues. So he knew something like that was coming because they all talk amongst themselves. Everybody was missing wallets, but no one received them back yet. And calling for him. He comes down there, and I'd already pre-slit with a razor blade all the coinage. And I said, how much money was in your wallet, pig? He says, a lot of money, sir. I says, oh, just a lot of money? You don't freaking know? I said, well, what do you say we count it? You're going to count that coinage as it hits the deck. It's up to you to keep an accurate running count. Because if you don't get it right the first time, it'll be even more painful the second time trying to collect loose change off the deck. And so he's got his M1 Garand rifle. I says, hold that weapon of death out. And he gets it out. And it says, start pumping, boy. So he's, in and out, up and overs. And that 8.5 pound rifle becomes maybe 800 pounds by the time you get 10 minutes into this.
Sure.
That's his problem. The M1 Garand is an awesome, awesome rifle. Beautiful and heavy. Well, I gave him, because I'm a compassionate person, I want to give him a fair chance. How many people know how many pennies, nickels, or dimes are in a roll?
Right.
So I said, all right, it's your only chance. Nickels, and I don't remember what the denomination is, and then pennies, there's 50 pennies in a roll, and then dimes. And quarters, I didn't want to use them because people like quarters, they'll pick them up, but how many people bend over to pick up a nickel, penny, or a dime? They don't. Okay. So we start pumping. And I'd throw them out in different denominations. Maybe we'll do a roll of pennies, and then we'll do a roll of dimes, and then a roll of nickels, and then 2 rows of pennies, and just mixing it all up and making it challenging. Now, I don't know while we're going through this if he's lost track already, but every time there's a $25 increment, I would ring the bell. And oh, by the way, I left the 1MC, which is a microphone system that on hot. So anything that was being said was constantly being broadcast. So everyone gets to hear him get tortured and his ballistic responses and my ballistic retorts. And every time there's a $25 achievement, I would ring the bell. There's a brass bell right there at the watch officer's desk area. Ding, 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 ding. $25 and counting! And go ahead and I'd bust more down and onto the coinage on the ground. I was so into the moment, I didn't realize someone had snuck out from the second floor, peeked over the balcony, and took 3 photographs of me and him. Oh, that's awesome. So those are the pictures that I shared with you. And I didn't get those pictures for, I can't remember how much longer, probably when they were safe and they were gone and commissioned from the program. But they ended up on my desk printed. I thought, oh, how precious. What a great memory. And so getting back to the story, we get to $75, $100, $125, $150. And now we're getting close. And it's the last roll of coins, and it's pennies. And he says, $174, sir. I thought, how did he know? Well, I did not know until the mutual email exchange just last week between the two of you, me, and Officer Candidate France, now retired Captain France, as I recall, and that he didn't even know. He amazed himself at his ability to get it right. Yeah. And so he paid close attention. He has attention to the detail. I guess that's why he's successful in life as a pilot. I never have time to listen to your show live, but I guarantee you I'm going to listen to it Thursday morning going to work.
Right.
And my goal is to listen to as much as I can. I'll finish it up on the return. And if I get interrupted, maybe the next morning. But I feel guilty because you talk about the podcast watchers who send you donations. And you guys deserve a donation. You have an outstanding platform. And to me, the perfect mix is 2 co-hosts. It has a different energy level than when you only have one person like Larry King.
Right.
It's hard to keep that energy going with just one host. And so I think it's a great platform. I love the stories. And then it hit me while driving to work. They loved the story, $174 in loose change, right? And that they were disappointed that I didn't tell it on my first podcast with you all, episode 99. So I thought, I'm going to go ahead and get $174 in nickels, pennies, and dimes and ship it to you. And I better get credit for the shipping. Shipping ain't free.
No, it isn't.
And I'm so proud of you all that you made sure that I was getting the credit for when I heard your intro on last week's show or the week before, that I'm getting credit also for the shipping, which put me over the threshold into that $200 group.
Right. So. Thank you, Aircraft Commander. Yeah, shipping 34 pounds via FedEx. They don't give that away.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot of weight.
So,
I had to go to 2 institutions. 2 institutions this time to get it.
Unbelievable.
Well, that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Well done. Well done.
Indeed.
First
that
class.
Was creative, brilliant on both counts, both on the first go and then on this one. So I still am amazed at the shit you guys come up with to torture. You should do stand up as a second career, not
It doesn't pay as good as what I'm doing personally, unless I made it big time.
Fair enough.
I can do that. I told my team that I took over a hospital as the administrative director of engineering. And I told them, I said, on my introduction speech, I said, I'll be 75 this summer. I'm sorry, I'll be 65 this summer. I promise you this, I will be here for 10 years or until I'm dead. I didn't want them thinking that, oh my God, he's going to retire in the next year or two. Why have faith in someone that's going to be leaving us? And
right.
So I'll be 75 when I'm hopefully hitting the circuit as a stand-up, I guess.
There you go.
If I follow your advice.
Fantastic. So, and there's another one, and I'll include this photo, but you are on your knees and left elbow and buried to the shoulder in sand, in a sand pit. What the hell is that? Oh, and there's a post hole digger laying on its side next to
Again, a photograph I didn't know would be taken. And this is before the time frame when everyone had a camera phone in their pocket, a cell phone.
Right.
And so someone pulled out some disposable camera or whatever and had pictures developed and left me a couple of mementos as well. They left me 2 photos of that event.
Was that a candidate that took that or another GI?
Yes. No.
Candidate. Okay.
Yeah, candidate.
You guys are smart enough to take photographic evidence.
So hopefully I'll remember to tell you about an idiot that I thought was smart enough to use a camera intentionally on my behalf, and he failed. So what was going on there is we teach them that as an officer, you're going to be entrusted with classified, secret, and top secret material. And therefore, you must always practice proper safety when it comes to security. And you're not permitted to ever write down a combination. If you do, you've now started on that path of destroying your career. You must memorize that combination. It can never be written down. You must make sure that anytime that you leave your room here in the barracks, that your wall locker is locked. You will never preset the lock combination, spin dial, cheap lock. You must never preset the combination so that all you have to do is yank it. You won't set it so that all you have to do is get the last number and then pop it open. And again, your roommates must not know your combination and practice operational security. If you're smart, whenever I give the command to get the hell out of my barracks and get online out in the hallway or get outside, that all 4 of you will round robin all 4 lockers and shake the shack and spin it to make sure that it's not preset.
Okay.
So they have a 2-inch by 3-inch notebook that they keep. We call it a gouge book. And they write down all this information that's mandatory rote memorization. So anytime that they're not engaged in something, we'll tell them to pull out their knowledge and they'll hold it directly out in front of them in a very painful methodology. Shoulder, forearm, parallel to the deck, fully extended. and they must read it from that distance, whatever's on there, and they can use the other hand to flip the pages. Well, this idiot had written down the combination to a wall locker, and they have their name on the darn knowledge books as well, so it's pretty easy to find. I go in there, I shake it open. I open it up, sure enough. So I went ahead and took the rifle, and I took it with me out to the pit. I took a post hole digger, and I dug a very, very deep hole. I never used the call before you dig service. I'm glad that I've never severed electrical or water lines or natural gas lines. I just lucked out, I guess, lucky in life. And I took the upper receiver and lower receiver apart, so now it's half as long in length. And then I dug a hole wide enough that I could drop the two pieces in there vertical, but making sure that the tops of the two components are at least 10, 12 inches below the surface. I want to make it challenging to find. So when you dig your hands in there looking for it, they don't know that you're going to have to go 12 inches to hopefully find that magic component and to pull it out.
This is truly a nightmare scenario right here.
God. It is. But while they're doing that, I have the whole class out there because we all pay for the sins of one.
Right.
So the whole class is out in the sandpit when I give them the command. I give the command, get your weapon of death, get on my line, ready. And they come running out, and I'll look, and I'll see someone doesn't have their damn rifle. Where the hell is your weapon of death? Sir, this officer does not know, sir. I said, well, what do you say we go take a look for it in my sand trap, a sand pit. Everybody outside now. And they get out in the pit. Have them ground their rifles, and I PT them to smithereens. PT is, sides turtle hops, push-ups, leg lifts, mountain climbers, all these different exercises to try and really treat pain and discomfort. And then I'll stop them, and I'll say, stop, aye, sir. And they're trying to catch their breath. Well, start looking. And they're never permitted to talk in my presence and amongst themselves. So they're all in there working as individuals, trying to find that magic location. Now, a couple of times, I noticed they were pretty close, and I would go ahead and then stop them, and I would have them go back to exercising again. So when they restarted the hunt, they would not start in the same spot. And so it was kind of randomness that they could find it. And that's the backstory on that. Now, one time I was walking through the barracks. There's a sign on the door, and it said, sick in quarters, 96 hours bed rest. And it gave which officer candidate and what rack that they were supposed to be sleeping in. So I don't want to disturb his sleep, his recovery. I'm compassionate. I open the door slightly. I look, and there he is, snoozing. The medicine is working, and his wall locker's unlocked. And I thought, son of a bitch, I got to teach him a lesson. So instead of taking the rifle, which at this point in training, it's about week 11. Week 11 was what they called the gauntlet at that time. They had 3 significant tests. It was the last 3 academic tests they would have, and they all came in the final week that they're officer candidates. And then they'll spend 2 weeks as candidate officers, which is like an elevation, and we treat them like humans at that point. But he's not a human yet. And so I took his book bag of all of his precious notes and books, and I buried his book bag in the sand pit.
Oh, God.
Now, he can't participate because he's on bed rest. But I told his class that someone's missing a book bag, and it's officer candidate Fig, just say Fig, because he looks like a screw up. And so they all got out in the pit and PT them forever, and we kept going through that cycle of dig for the hole that would have the book bag and go back to exercise until eventually they found the book bag and took it back to him so that he would have his notes to study. That's teamwork.
Right.
Is it not? Or helping a teammate make it to the finish line. But
brutal.
So now I'll tell you something. You gave me some questions that you wanted to make sure we cover.
Yeah.
So before I get into the glory or the fun stuff, the colorful storytelling that a person who's not familiar with the Marine Corps would think, this is just an evil person. He doesn't have any love in his heart. It's not true. I did a lot of very positive things in both boot camp and officer candidate school. So I'll tell some positive ones here that I think are very positive. Navy OCS, I thought, man, this is a different animal. I know nothing about it. And there's 7 drill instructors and 1 chief drill instructor. And each drill instructor has between 2 and 3 officer candidate classes at a time. One will be in the first week of training. One will be in the last 1 or 2 weeks of training. And one will be somewhere in the middle. And so they're always transitioning what's going on. And for those who are never worked in the program before, it's possible because we didn't sleep overnight at the compound at the officer candidate school. You went home every night. You didn't have what we call being on duty, like we do at boot camps at MCRD, Marine Corps Recruit Depot. I thought, how am I going to motivate them to really put out? Now, I remember watching something on the internet. It had to do with doggy daycare for people with dogs, and they could log in and see how their dog is enjoying their time at the puppy spa or whatever. I thought, man, imagine if we had something like that, like a drone that's always flying over the formation and in the squad bay, that whoever cares about that officer candidate could log online and see, hey, how's Joey doing? And they can see the piss poor attitude and performance coming out of Joey, getting constantly chewed out by the drill instructor. I thought that would be motivating. Now, how can I do something like that? So I thought they haven't bonded yet with each other. So at this point, at the front end of training, they have not created that great synergy, that great teamwork of being melded into one very tightly synchronized unit. They're individuals. Okay. So I didn't want to throw them a lifeline too early. So I waited till what we call at Navy OCS, Poopyville, which is in reference to a poopy suit, which is actually a set of green coveralls that was issued to naval aviators, both Marine and Navy, going all the way back pre-World War II. And that's what they would wear inside the cockpit when they were flying their missions. And they call it a poopy suit because if things didn't work out on that flight, you pooped in your suit. And so that's why they call it a poopy suit. And they carry that terminology forward for generations up to present day. But we were issuing them at that point, no longer poopy suits. We were issuing them green Santines, like we had in the Marine Corps from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And it was a green top and a green bottom that were separate items. But we still call them that event of 1 week of training, the first week, Poopyville. And so I waited till they got through that process, and now they're in the battalion, and it's now the first Monday of the first week in battalion. And at the end of the training schedule, I have them either on the quarterdeck or I take them out to the sandpit, but not to punish them. I tell them it's a shame that so many Americans have no idea what the Medal of Honor is. Okay. It's our highest award that we give out for bravery in combat. And 2 out of 3 recipients of the Medal of Honor is posthumous, post-death.
Right.
That they don't do it to achieve that glory. And they'll all tell you they're not the hero. The heroes are the ones who didn't come home. But their conduct under fire was such that it's an indelible image of what we expect all of our warriors to execute during that moment of crisis. In my hand is about 80 Medal of Honor tags, ID tags, military ID tags, that just like this one right here, although that's not one right now, that's my personal one. Mm-hmm. I said, you will take the tag that you get issued randomly, random issue, and you will take these books that I leave behind, which are their stories of how they earned the Medal of Honor, because it's earned or awarded, but we never, ever use the terminology win. We don't win, not the winner of the measure. It's not an event that you compete in. This is something that is recognized and you're awarded for your conduct in battle. I said, for those of you who make it to the end of a training, this is yours for life. Those of you who choose to quit, you will surrender that tag to me. Because the person that you were chosen to represent did not understand the concept of quitting. Regardless of what the challenges were, they were going to do the right thing, and they were going to come out either victorious or dead, but they were not going to quit, and they were not going to give up and surrender. You will polish this tag so it's like chrome, brilliant, because they have distinguished themselves. You have not. Yours will remain like mine, dull. It is not reflective. You will know their story verbatim. If you're ever asked, who do you represent? You will come to parade rest and commence telling their story. you also take time to learn what went on with them after they received the Medal of Honor, if in fact they lived. I want you to know as much about their story as humanly possible, so you can tell it beyond simply the military citation on how it was written. I will tell you that, and I'm not telling the candidates this, at this point I'm talking to my audience here, every single time that the tag was surrendered because of a DOR, drop on request, they quit the program, tears physically were shedding down their face, because at that moment of transition of that tag in their hand to my hand, they realized they had more fight in them and they could have performed. And they're acknowledging their lack of commitment to the Navy, to their team, and to themselves, and to the reputation of their family name. I've only seen one candidate kicked out that I took his tag, and he was kicked out for dishonorable conduct at the end of officer training, and he was heartbroken that he had to surrender it, and because he didn't want to leave the program, but his conduct was unacceptable for what he did. Coincidentally, we're still connected and we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
Just a wow. And he reached out. Either one of us reached out to the other about 10 years ago on LinkedIn, I believe it was, is where we started. But yes, so I said, now I'm going back to talking to the officer candidates. When you're in formation, you're running, you have this sensation in your mind that, you know what, I think I'm going to be a run drop. I'm going to drop out of my place in formation and not keep pace with everybody else. I want you to think about who you represent, because they did not understand the concept of quitting. They would have given their maximum effort until they were unconscious. When you know that you need to continue studying at night to pass an exam, I expect you to find that emotional and physical energy to keep training, to keep studying. And when you are challenged with a moral or ethical dilemma, make sure that you execute it as they would. So I said, I'm the only drill instructor who does this. There are no other officer candidates who ever receive a Medal of Honor tag at Officer Candidate School. This is my program that I came up with. Okay. You're welcome to do it, but drill instructors don't like to copy each other. And the good news is that when I was leaving the program at the 2-year mark, two of the drill instructors asked if they could do 2 of my methodologies and continue them. I said, absolutely. Love for you to, for this program to continue. So I know 2 of the programs that I created that were very positive continued after I had left. And hopefully they're still being done today. I'm sure some bean counters upset because we punched out maybe another 45 or 50 ID tags, but big deal.
Nice. Right.
So,
well, I think that's outstanding.
Now, let me tell you how this comes full circle.
All right.
So fast forward. That was 1996 when I first did this. It's now the year 2003. It's my last year in the Marine Corps. I'm a company first sergeant for motor transport company at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. It's known as Fort Lost in the Woods, and it's an Army base. What do you expect? Well, I've got 1,400 Marine students. They're fresh out of boot camp, have been to the Marine Corps School of Combat for MCT training for 1 month to learn how to be infantry. Now they're going to get a job skill, and they're coming here to learn how to be an engine mechanic on vehicles or to operate them. But not both. We don't trust them to have both skill sets. So I'm out there in the training area with the commanding officer. They're all waiting their turn to get in the vehicle and go through the several-mile course with the Humvees. And I noticed a young Marine with the name Coker, C-O-K-E-R. I said, Coker. Yes, First Sergeant. I said, it's a very important name in the Marine Corps. I'm curious, you have any relatives that went to Vietnam? Yes, sir. Who would that have been? I think he said it was his uncle. And I said, did he die in combat? Yes, he did. Did he receive a high award for his service in Vietnam? He said, I only heard the story one time many years ago by my father, and I believe he received a very, very high award. I said, well, on the happen chance that you are related as a nephew or a great nephew to this awesome warrior in the Marine Corps who did die in combat. His name is Ronald L. Coker, 1968. I said, Marines, gather around. So I school circled all the Marines together. I said, sit and kneel stand. And so that way you have a really tight audience in front of you. And I told them the story about the Medal of Honor tag and why I came up with it and why I've been wearing this tag. So when I issued out that first set of tags randomly from that roll of about 85 that I had initially made, and they're all Marine or Navy, by the way, and they're all World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. The next tag up after I issue out the others is PFC Ronald L. Coker, killed in action. So I put that on mine. And I polished it up. And so I've been carrying it all these years and telling his story to all those follow-on classes I had trained at OCS, 9 classes total. And then occasionally would tell the story in the fleet once I had gone back to being part of aviation and later on the school command system as a Marine. So now it's my last 6 months in the Marine Corps, basically. I come across this event, tell them the story about PFC Ronald L. Coker and how he was on a patrol and they seen the VC, they started pursuing them. VC took refuge in a cave, and as the Marines approached the cave, they returned fire, they being the VC, the Viet Cong, and started shooting the Marines. And one of the Marines was horrifically wounded near the mouth of the cave. So PFC Ronald L. Coker, without regard for his own life, put his weapon down, ran forward, and in his approach to retrieve this wounded Marine, received bullet wounds and continue through that indomitable spirit to grab that Marine and start dragging him off to the wood line into safety. Wow. Grenades started coming out. The first one hit him, bounced, and exploded. He received some shrapnel wounds. A second one hit the chest of the Marine he was dragging, and it bounced and exploded, inflicting more injury on both Marines. He was able to drag him to safety. What I don't know is who that Marine was he was trying to save and whether or not that Marine lived. What I do know is that PFC Ronald L. Coker died from his wounds and therefore, with complete disregard for his own life, trying to save the life of another Marine, received lethal wounds and proper recognition with the Medal of Honor. And I said, I took it off my tag at that point, off my chain. I said, I want you to have this. I want you to wear it on your set of chains. And if you ever get challenged by anyone, you tell them why you have this tag and the story of PFC Ronald L. Coker. And I said, I have a photograph in my office that I'm going to have picked up by your squad instructor. And I want it given to you. So now you have a photograph of PFC Ronald L. Coker that you can keep in your office or your bedroom, wherever you want to put it for the rest of your life. I have heard from, I told them, I said, going back to OCS, I told them, I said, hopefully this gives you the courage that you need in combat or in a dire situation. Suppose you're flying an aircraft and you just had a mid-air collision. It doesn't matter what the situation is, but hopefully you'll have the strength and character and confidence to continue to do what you got to do. So I did my best to create that positive learning environment for OCS, and it did. I heard good feedback from the Marines. Well, they are Marines, really. They're Marine Corps trained. Sure. I have a photograph on the T-shirt that was designed by Class 07, 9, or 8, and I always told all my candidates, I'd better see a Marine if I freaking rip that uniform off your body. So green T-shirt, very muscular person, wash khaki uniform, ripping it open to expose an Eagle Globe and Anchor on a green T-shirt, center chest. And so they took it to heart, and great design by them. But yes, I want to make sure that they had that confidence in their moment of need, should that happen in their fleet life.
Oh, thank you. That's outstanding. Now, listen, I got to ask a couple questions because something you said early on triggered this, and I wrote it down. So, it doesn't have to be exact. What, if you could put a number to it, percentage of the Navy AOCS candidates were DORs?
So no one ever kept those kind of numbers. What I can tell you is when you read post or engage in conversation with those who went through Aviation Officer Candidate School, which the Marines have been there training the Navy since 1947, and AOCS came aboard, which means you have a college degree, in 1956, and it ended in 1994. So I actually was never an AOCS drill instructor. I was a Navy OCS drill instructor, which is homogenized. They took the seafaring Navy and the aviation Navy, and they merged them together, just like Quantico did. when in 1968 they took away the MARCAD program from Pensacola AOCS, and they had all of their people get their commission at Quantico in 1968.
Okay.
So I'd have to say that my personal experience is that I'd have a class of about 40, and I would usually end up with somewhere around a low of 6 or 7 and a high of about 9 or 10 with DOR during the first couple of weeks. And you could DOR in your first moment of arrival up until the moment before you take your oath and commission. So I'd have to say that whatever that mathematically moves out to, that's the percentage. Now,
that's fairly lower than I anticipated.
But when you hear people talk, they'll say, we started with, here's a great example. On my very last class 1, 2, 9, or 8, we started with 34 originals, and then we had 3 roll-ins who had been in training but rolled backwards. It may have been because of a medical issue. It may have been because they failed something a second time. So if you fail your first exam, which is history, in the first week, and you pass the retest the following day, you stay with your class. If you failed it, you go backwards 2 weeks in training. So that's how a lot of attrition occurred in the AOCS program and the Navy OCS program.
Okay.
Now, you can pass that first exam. You fail the first exam, pass the retest. You get to the last exam in week 11 and fail it. You don't even get to retake it. You go automatically backwards in training 2 weeks. So I started with 34 plus 3 roll-ins, makes it 37. By week 5, I was down to 19, and we stayed at 19 until the finish line.
Okay.
That's a big, okay. Well, that's more, I lost 55% of my platoon at OCS.
How many because of the spear evals, also known as peer evals?
None. Was they DOR'd or were MPQ'd?
Yeah, MPQ, not physically qualified. If a candidate utters the DOR phrase, are there any takebacks? I'm thinking about DOR. Nope, you're done. Or is it?
Actually, I experienced one take back.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. So this story here, she was portly, let's say it that way, right? She showed up to OCS not looking like a physical specimen of, I want to be part of America's finest. And so I was on her about her weight, like I would any male.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with gender. I was on her because of her weight and her inability to do a proper exercise. So it was Reveille at Poopyville, probably weekday number 2. So actually, they get there on a Saturday. It would have been Wednesday or a Thursday. And she's on her back doing leg lifts. The problem is she lacks the core strength to do 2 things at one time. Keep her feet off the frickin' deck a minimum of 6 inches and her head off the deck, chin on chest.
Okay.
She can only do one or the other, but not both. And boom, I was there. If there's a jelly donut on your chest, you get your frickin' fatty melon off the deck and start chewing it while your frickin' legs are elevated. So this officer can't DORs. Well, good. Now you can have all the donuts you want. And get up. I says, get up, go to your room. In fact, don't even go to your room. Just go downstairs and tell the candidate officer that you have DOR'd, and they will take it from there. All right? Good. She's gone. The fat body's gone. The weakling's gone. One down and many more to go. Well, I find out that the lieutenant commander, who is the XO of Officer Candidate School, she doesn't like John Crouch. She doesn't like that I have this thing about pointing out gender weaknesses, because if I find females putting their knees on the deck for push-ups, I'll remind them, there's I said, there's only one standard in the Navy. Frickin' knees off the deck. And there's no girl push-ups here, because we're taught girl push-ups, knees on deck in high school and junior high during my day when we did physical training at K through 12. Well, she said she would love to stay in the program as long as she doesn't have me as the drill instructor. And you frickin' accommodated her. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, wow.
That is a sin of all sins. Now we get to pick and choose who our drill instructor is. Well, I find out about a week and a half later, she's back in the program with another drill instructor. And fast forward, I don't go hunt her out and harass her. As long as she's out of sight, out of mind, I don't have a reason to go find her. She makes it through the program. And now she's out in the fleet. She's aviation. She's in her flight suit, as I recall.
No.
I'm back in aviation, VMFA AW 332, the Moonlighters, and my commanding officer just returns from a cross country, which is, he left South Carolina and he went across the country. In this case, he went to Pensacola, Florida. He went to Pensacola, Florida, stopped in at the Mustin Officers Club,
Yes.
And was sitting there enjoying his lunch and seeing the table next to him of about 8 to 10 newly commissioned ensigns, and they were telling stories. And a few of their stories had to do with dealing with Gunnery Sergeant Crouch. And so that obviously had his attention because I was his maintenance control chief. And he never interjected himself at all. He just listened to all this good gossip and then brought it back. He said, Gunny, you're a well-known legend at Pensacola. And I says, hoorah. I've been away about a year at that time. And he said, I'm listening to this table of war stories being told about their officer candidate days, and they start telling stories about you. And one in particular is about this female who happens to be at the table. And she's already putting stress on the seamstress and the buttons and the zipper of the flight suit, which means she's overweight for her flight suit, and about how there's a jelly donut and whatnot, the jelly donut story. And so I thought to myself, I know exactly who this is. And I told him who it was. And I'll leave her name out of this. However, I'm proud to say that someone who's been a close friend of hers, who went through the program, by the way, who went through the Citadel and then went to Navy Officer Candidate School and fell under my tutelage. Al Reiner is his name. He's an awesome officer. I didn't train him, but we became friends. And he was telling me how shocked he was because he knew of her hard mindset, her warrior ethos and whatnot. She just didn't have the warrior body, and that she had DOR'd. He had found out that 3 people DOR'd from the program under John Crouch. And now he's stressed out about showing up here. And who does he doesn't get me though. He gets another drill instructor. And so he told me a few years ago, he says, John, he says, she became a captain in the Navy and she's done incredible things to save lives for Navy SEALs who are out there, because she's part of that intel community, cyber warfare community, communications support for the SEAL teams. And she's done a lot of great things in the Navy, and she's been very, very successful. I says, well, the only thing she wasn't successful at was getting her freaking fat head off the deck and her legs at the same time. But
well, shit hot. Well, I'm glad she's done good though. That's
yes.
fantastic.
I'm glad that she turned out to be a good asset to the Navy and to the Marine Corps.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I got some notes from you about some things to talk about. And one of the things I definitely want to cover here in a little bit is what it takes to become a DI and why is the program structured how it is and how it works and all that. You also sent us some notes on your own early days in boot camp and such. You didn't start off a wild, hard killing machine full of discipline. You had your own struggles early on. What you did tell us about the one where you got a personal tour of the DI's office because you made the mistake of turning your head walking by. So maybe we'll revisit that a little bit, but talk about some of your early days in boot camp. So
my experiences in boot camp, here's some quick stories. Day one I've already gone through receiving, which is the first 3 to 7, sometimes 10 days of boot camp, where it doesn't count on how many training days there are. You're being assembled and getting your shots and uniforms and things of that nature. Sure. So now it's day one. We've met our drill instructor team. They just marched out there very intent, and they recite a bunch of verbiage without aid of reference in a very forceful manner, and it had our attention. Serious attention. Then get up on your feet now. And so we got up from sitting there listening to the SDI speech. Now we're standing there, position attention. Now the team of 5 drill instructors is just tearing into everybody. I'm thinking it's not stressful. I'm not nervous. They even start jumping in on me. It doesn't bother me that much.
And what year is this? What year was this?
1970, I showed up at December 27. I arrived in San Diego for boot camp. And so now it would have been the first is post, probably January 3, maybe, that we're now doing day one of boot camp. And now I'm told we're all told to get online. Okay. So we get in front of our racks where our rifle and our sea bags are. First thing the drill instructor tells us to do is, I walk by, I want you all within striking distance. So move forward now, but you better not touch me. And you put your fingers out like this. I got imagine if you will, those in the audio, hearing me talk about putting your fingers out like that. Imagine if you're trying to put your fingers out like claws of a cat. And so you got your fingers right there in front of your ugly mug. So as he's walking down one side and then come back up the other way, he's pushing occasionally recruits backwards. And so when he gets done, he says, if you got adjusted, I want you up here on my quarterdeck. Rest of you, stay where you are in front of your rack. So the recruits come up that were touched, and he does a count. He goes, not enough. Go back and get your bunk mate, because we had bunk beds. So the recruit that I shared a bunk with comes up, touches me. Now I got to go with him up there. I don't even know his name. We didn't wear name tags back then. The drill instructor says, all right, you disgusting pigs. You want to go through life with your freaking fingers in your mouth, chewing on your damn nails? I'm going to make sure you never want to put them in your mouth again. You're going to clean my shitters. And I whispered to him, says, I don't even know you. I already hate your fucking guts. And so we go into the head, follow the drill instructor. He pops open the door to one of the stalls. Like, why do they have stalls in boot camp? I don't know. It should be open walls, no wall between the shitters. So he puts his finger under the rim, comes back out with grit, brown grit. I don't know what it is. As far as I know, it could be actual feces or it could be a prank and it's chocolate. But all I know is he's trying to let us know that whatever ends up on my finger after you turds clean my head is going on your tongue. Well, I know two things. One, he ain't going to find nothing under my toilet rims. And number two, if he did, his finger ain't going in my mouth. I can assure you that. I don't care if I get my ass whooped. I am not going to be a subject of someone else's hazing and harassment. And so that was my first introduction to how important cleanliness is. And so I never followed his example of demonstrating to my recruits and officer candidates, it's important to be unique. Someone else's bad habits may be successful for them. It doesn't mean that they're going to be successful for you. Develop your own bad habits if you're going to have any, but take the best of what you see. Another experience I've got it up here. So hygiene inspections back then were quite stressful for men. And the reason is we were issued boxers. Now, boxers are not the kind that are today's fashion model, really tight fitting, right. No, these are Omar, the tent maker. One size fits all, it seemed like. And the amount of material back there could actually possibly be used as an emergency parachute if jumping.
Right. Yes.
And the size of the fly opening, so you can reach in and grab some, was a lot larger than it needed to be, in my opinion. So every night for hygiene inspection, we'd be standing on top of our footlockers, and so that our feet were almost 2 feet closer to the drill instructor so he could see if we were pigs. And so the drill instructor would be stopping in front of each recruit, and at that time, our hands are supposed to pop up parallel to the deck, fingers extended, joint, thumb along the hand, and then we slowly rotate our hands upside down while reciting, "Sir, this recruit has no medical problems at this time, sir." But if you did, you're expected to report what those medical problems were. When you're done with that statement and you haven't fully rotated your hands without further communication, you automatically start rotating in a counterclockwise direction. Those little short, choppy steps on that footlocker to get yourself rotated 360 degrees. And he's looking at your body for signs of bruises, cuts, infections, cellulitis. He's looking for blisters, all those type of things. And then when you pop back around, he's had forewarned us. I swear to God, you all need to know one thing. I am terrified of snakes. If I see a snake coming out of your freaking drawers, I'm going to smack it. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to choke it. And so I knew exactly what he's talking about. And so does the audience. And so terrified, everyone would always adjust their fly offset a good 10 degrees. So that opportunity did not exist.
Right.
And so one day I had rotated 180 degrees And for you idiots out there, that's the opposite direction of the human body. So now he's looking at my backside. San Diego has all these sand pits for making physical training incentive punishment PT and just regular PT. And it's got this soft sand that has crushed seashells in it. Well, those crushed seashells have little sharp edges, and they penetrate your soft PT uniform. And if you're wearing camis, the camis back then were a very thin poplin. So I didn't know it, but our butts were all bloody. So he says, Jesus Christ, what do we have here? Freaking gay daisy chain? And because not just me, he had already noticed others with bloody backsides. Now, earlier in the day, we had a hurricane come through. And a hurricane in boot camp is when you take your contents to your footlocker that are neatly organized and you dump it into a big pile. And then they go through and they kick it all around. So everything gets mixed up. And then you're told to collect your goods and have it all back in the footlocker in like 45 seconds. You ain't got time to be looking at whose underwear is this? Whose t-shirt's that? Because everything's got a name on it marked with an ink stamp. And so I was wearing Johnson's underwear. And so when I turned around, he sees blood on my backside. He sees Johnson on the front of the underwear. Johnson, get over here. Johnson comes running over. Turn around. And he sees blood on his. Turn around. He says, Haverhill, get over here. Haverhill comes running over. Haverhill's got Smith or somebody, right? He says, Jesus Christ, we got a gay daisy chain here. And so just the drill instructors doing their usual, here's an indelible moment for you, right?
Oh, yes. It brought back some good memories there.
So myself, I'm not going to crap on myself, all right? And you don't get to make head calls when you want. If you do, you have to request permission. And no one wants to request permission because you're going to do PT before or afterwards, so you can have that privilege. Now, that's not sanctioned by the SOPs, Standard Operating Procedure, something that's punishable by a court-martial. No, it's not. It's not even part of that process. You never deny a head call, so I never have. But they never denied mine either. But I waited until the whole platoon was sent to the head. So we're all in there fighting for the limited number of urinals and crappers, and I needed to use a crapper, a toilet, sit down. I'm sitting there straining, trying to make something happen because I got to go, and we're waiting to go up for PT, and I don't want to be out in the PT field and have this event happen. And all of a sudden, the door opens up, and someone says, spread your legs. And I says, you ain't peeing between my legs. And I kick him out, because we're all fighting to beat the clock because there's never enough time in boot camp. And all of a sudden, I hear, secure the head. And the whole platoon sounds up, secure the head, aye, sir. And they start their countdown from 30, 29, 28. Guidance squad leaders come by, pounding on the hatches. Get out, get out, get out, Crouch. I said, I ain't getting out. I'm going to finish this, right? So finally, everyone leaves the head. I'm by myself in there. I can't hear the platoon anymore. I don't know if they're even still here, but I know we're going to PT. And then about a minute later, one of the guide or squad leaders comes in. Get out, Crouch. I says, fuck you, I ain't getting out. So I continue to do what I got to do. I have performance anxiety, okay? I can't do it in a room full of a bunch of people. So finally, it seems like 7-10 minutes have gone by. I don't know how many minutes have gone by, but I flush, I bolt out the door. I hit the double doors into the quarterdeck. I immediately turn to my left instead of going through the squad bay, turn to my left and go out the door I'm not supposed to, but that's the fastest way outside. I run downstairs. I run out to the company street. I look to my left, to my right. I don't see anybody and I don't hear anything. And we don't have watches. We never know what time it is.
Right.
And so I go running toward the PT field. I don't find them there. I went to the other PT field. I went to the hand-to-hand combat. I ran a fucking PFT by the time I got done looking for a platoon that does not exist, nor none of the other platoons from our series, which is 4 platoons. So I go all the way back, and I'm back at the starting point in front of the barracks, in front of the company steps where the drill instructors are the only ones authorized to use. And all of a sudden I hear, what the fuck are you doing, Crouch? Oh, my God. A voice from heaven. I indelibly know who's talking to me. It's Corporal Campbell, and it's going to be Staff Sergeant Jennings. And I turn around, and I'm looking straight ahead. Up here, you idiot. I look up to the third floor. He says, what the fuck are you doing outside? Sir, the recruit thought he lost the platoon, sir. Sir, this recruit was making a head call and didn't leave when everyone else did. This recruit went and ran to all the PT fields looking for the platoon, sir. Sir, this recruit has lost the platoon, sir. And the two of them lost their bearing, and they were holding onto the railing laughing. Said, get in here, you fucking idiot. So I went and ran to the back of the squad. They went up my steps, came in. Everyone's there online, quietly reading their gouge book in front of them, reciting, memorizing their chain of command or whatever other idiot rote thing they have to memorize. And then later on at free time that night, I said, what the hell happened? He said, we're all in here reading our knowledge. Several minutes later, you come bolting out through the double doors and then ran out the other door. And the drill instructors were in the office right on the quarterdeck there. I go, who the fuck was that? Recruit Crouch, sir. So they thought I went UA. And so they had already initiated a serious incident report, I'm sure, because anytime there's a serious incident, you have 15 minutes to call it in to your chain of command, something I would learn when I became a DI. Oh. And so that heavenly voice of my drill instructors that gave me that comfort of knowing that I'm here, they're there, and we're still a family, and knowing that I was going to get punished. But man, that was a tough PT session because I already ran what seemed like 3 miles under stress.
Thank you for that. I just did 100 crunches.
Oh, man. No kidding. So, I had no idea. Wow.
I was a screw up from beyond. I mean, my father told me and my brother when we were teenagers, he says, kids, I was a Marine from 56 to 58. And we had a draft back then, and I didn't want to risk being sent to one of the other branches, so I joined the Marine Corps for 2 years. And I want you to know this. I'll never ask you to serve in the military or suggest or expect you to. But should you make that choice, I'm cautioning you, do not join the Marine Corps if you need to be told something twice. They'll take all the time in the world to tell you something once. God help you after you've been given the opportunity to ask questions that you need to then revisit this conversation because there's no tolerance for having to have the conversation twice. And I know that all of you Marines feel the same way, correct?
I hate repeating myself. I hate it.
Right.
Yeah. Is that how'd you get repeat as a call sign?
Well, actually, that's because I had the similar call sign to the squadron CO at the RAG when I checked in. So, yeah, so it's first name's Pete. And so it's, but I had a same call sign, which was Hawk. And so it became repeat.
I have been a screw up in boot camp for days. And then the drill instructors keep pounding on us after every academic class because there's, 4 platoons, 75 recruits each on average, and they're all competing to be the best in anything and everything they do. So academic instructors, who are drill instructors, by the way, they will ask a question. And of course, you're supposed to throw your hand in the air as fast as you can if you have the answer, right? Sure. So we had been threatened with death, and I'm going to be the hero for our platoon 2116, Battalion Golf Company. Senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Mogeson. I'm going to be the hero that gives us that praise that we've been seeking. He said, so the drill instructor said, if we don't hear your senior drill instructor's name announced because you're the first ones with your hand in the air and on your feet giving a ballistic answer, I'm going to torture all of you today. All right? So I'm going to be the savior. I have that kind of courage. So the class is called Laws of Land Warfare. Instructor walks out. He says, who here joined the Marine Corps to rape, kill, pillage, and burn? I handed him a straight up, this recruit, sir. He said, we don't want your kind. You don't deserve to be a Marine. Drill instructors, take him outside and teach him a lesson. Oh. And of course, Corporal Jennings, I just forgot the corporal's name, but and Staff Sergeant Jennings took me outside and PT'd me to death. My throat was like a blowtorch being blown into it. And of course, I could hear him from outside say, we don't rape, we don't kill, we don't burn, and we don't pillage in the Marine Corps. Of course, I told everyone that platoon 2116, Senior Drill Instructor, Staff Sergeant Mogeson, United States Marine Corps, hoorah. So I got my ass chewed out for that, for having that kind of jump on a grenade for everybody else. So the term hoorah, I never heard that until I joined the Marine Corps. And our receiving drill instructor was Hispanic. And growing up in rural Illinois, I never came across a Hispanic, to my memory, and the Hispanic drill instructor at recruit receiving, I had a hard time understanding what the hell he was saying. Well, he told us that I want you to memorize this verse, and you will say it every time that I say fall out and fall into the hacienda. So I guess he called the barracks a hacienda, being his Hispanic heritage. He says, "Gorillas, we're tough. We live in trees and bushes. When women are rare, we'll fight a bear. We're rugged son of a bitches. Oorah, oorah, oorah." Right? I didn't quite understand oorah. And I am a persuasive speaker. And so what I did was, "Mooyah!" So he said, "Who the fuck said ooh?" I still couldn't understand him. I thought he was saying oorah. And I was whispering to the recruits in the third squad, and from back in the third squad toward the tail end, being short. I said, "It's mooyah." So more people started saying mooyah each time we did this. And so after the third event, he said, "I swear to God, I'm going to torture. Who the fuck is saying mooyah?" All of a sudden, all these recruit hands point to me. "Come here, you scroungy little fuck." So that's how I learned to say oorah, which I much prefer yut, because it's a lot easier to say.
Yut.
So you want to talk about what it takes to become a DI?
Yeah.
So when I graduated boot camp, I thought, wow, I bet that's a fun job. And when I was early in aviation, I had walked by the the Marine Corps jammer's office. We call it the jammer because they're jamming something that you don't like. And they're supposed to be Marine Corps planner, to help you plan out your career. And he had this brochure rack of different occupations that you can do in the Marine Corps: Marine security guard, drill instructor duty, recruiter. So I grabbed drill instructor duty. I still have that brochure that I look at, and I look at all the photographs. I go, this looks so fun and enjoyable. Oh my gosh, someday I want to be a drill instructor. So fast forward, it's 1986, early 86. I've been in the Marine Corps 6 years. And I put in my application. My command recommends me. I'm a good Marine, competent, good shape. And so I get accepted, receive my orders for class 1-87. The first class of fiscal year 87 kicks off in October of 86, because the fiscal year in the Marine Corps, or the military, is October 1st. Doesn't match the calendar. So showing up to DI school 15 minutes early is the gospel in the Marine Corps.
Which is where? Location.
Parris Island.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, like the poster behind me. And so I show up at 06:40. No, 06:35. 06:35 I show up. And it's still dark outside because it's October. And October 13th, as a matter of fact. So all of a sudden, I hear this screaming and yelling like boot camp is in session from the steps of drill instructor school. I go, holy shit. I'm not walking up here yet, because what I'm hearing is, what the fuck is wrong with you? Walking up here 25 fucking minutes early, and just start reaming him a new ass. And the next one, "Come here, you idiot." Another one. So I stay far enough back in the shadows. I'm going to wait here until I see a lot of people go by, and they stop getting yelled at for showing up. And so I show up in there about 10 minutes till, and instead of 15 minutes till or 25 minutes till like I originally was planning, and get inside. And there's 120 students. Back then, you couldn't get people to volunteer. They hated the idea of going to the drill field. So there's only a small percentage of volunteers. And they passed around a clipboard, and you indicate whether you're a volunteer or you received orders. And so I don't remember the exact number. I want to think it was somewhere around less than 20 were volunteers, but the majority were not. They were voluntold that they're going to go do time at Parris Island as a drill instructor. And it's the first week now, because first day was a Monday. Now it's Thursday. And we have field day in the Marine Corps. Field day means you're not having fun like you're doing athletic events. You're cleaning the barracks, the offices, the place you work, making that whole base look spit shine perfect for Friday morning's early inspection. So my squad 13, we were assigned outdoor cleanup. So we had to rake a million leaves and make that place look pretty. The day starts off at 4:30 in the morning. It actually starts earlier for me because I'm a brown bagger and I live out in town. I'm not allowed to live in the barracks. They have since changed that policy, which is good. They should be able to be away from their family to be focused. But I'm living on very little sleep. I'm very tired from the PT program, which is guaranteed 2.5 hours of PT, and then all the other stuff that happens during the school. I'm outside. I've been raking for a couple hours. The sun's going down. I stop raking, and I put my left hand on my hip while holding the rake. The window cranks open. It's Gunnery Sergeant Wiggins, Stanley Wiggins. And for those of you who know him, he was in the communications field in the Marine Corps. He opens the window and says, "Come here, Sergeant Crouch." And so I go running over there at a high speed. I look up at the window because he's above me. I said, "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." I'm trying to get rid of that slang from aviation. You know, we call him Gunny. We don't call him Gunnery Sergeant. He said, "You know why I called you over here?" And I said, with all honesty, I said, "Yes, because I'm your neighbor across the street and you wanted to get to know me." Remember the first episode, 99? I said naivety was a gift I was given.
Yep.
Well, I was naive thinking he wanted to get to know me. He was throwing a loop. He goes, No, mister, I want to get to know the squad instructor. No, that's not why I brought you over here at all. You had your fucking hand on your hip. You come see me tomorrow after PT, mister. I want to get to know the squad instructor. And I thought, oh, great. This is going to be torture. And so I failed to follow divine intervention. Divine intervention was the preceding Sunday. That preceding Sunday, my neighbor across the street, Stanley Wiggins, one house across the street and one house over to the left.
Okay.
He was outside washing his vehicle. I hardly ever saw this guy outside. I knew he's a drill instructor, but that's all I knew. So I was going to walk over there and introduce myself and say, "Hey, you got any ideas on how to be prepped for DI school? I start tomorrow." And then I get halfway across to his house and the hand of God rested on my shoulder. It says, "Stop, you idiot. Get back." So I went back to my house. I never made the full walk. And now I thought, that's what he was trying to tell me. And these people don't care about me at all. And so after PT, miserable, brutal PT session, your goal is to make it through the PT session without losing your ID tag. You carry an ID tag around your neck chain and the second one, safety pin to your running shorts. The squad instructors have a game. How many tags can I collect? If you are not aligned, you're not covered down, you're not ballistically loud for each and every cadence that you're supposed to repeat. Any mistake that you make, give me your tag, right? They want to collect as many tags as they can because they're going to then extract more physical pain at the end of PT. I made it to the end of PT with my tag intact. I run into the building upon dismiss. We were living in the barracks across the street, an old wood barracks, and we had just enough time if we worked manically to get in, shower, dry off, put your inspection quality uniform on, get back across the street, formed up in formation, ready for an inspection. Come inside the building, pound on the hatch, office entry procedure. I square myself on his desk, report in. He says, "What's the uniform of the day?" I said, "Gunnery Sergeant, the uniform of the day was the PT uniform as I'm presently wearing. Presently, the class is engaged in showers and conversion to the Charlie uniform, ribbons, no badges. Is PT over?" "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." "You're not in the uniform of the day. Get better when you're in the uniform of the day." Right? I just lost X amount of minutes. That make it even more stressful. Run across the street, do that whole magic, get back just in time to do the office entry procedure in Charlie's. I come in, square myself on the desk. He says, "Begin." I look bewildered. "Begin what, Gunnery Sergeant?" "Begin, goddammit. I just told you to begin. Now, goddammit, begin." I'm looking at him dumbfounded. So I look over to my left, his partner in crime, Gunnery Sergeant Marshall. And I said, he sees me looking, he goes, "Don't fucking look at me. He told you to begin. Now get in your goddamn face and start pushing." I thought, the stars just came on, right? "You want me to do push-ups?"
Okay.
"Yes." I said, I thought I didn't have to do push-ups after boot camp. So I dropped down. I started doing push-ups. I must have cranked out 7 or 8. After a PT session, it's like all I got left, you know? And he says, "Why aren't you counting?" So I pick up where I was at. 8, He says, no. What's the first word out of your mouth? One. And then there's supposed to be 4 count exercises, not 2, right? I thought I could see how this experience is going to be. It's going to be a tough 2 months, 3-month program now. So then he stopped me after 15 push-ups. I thought, that wasn't bad at all. He says, shut the hatch. I don't want you distracting anybody. So I shut the hatch and resumed push-ups to failure. And I'm sure the reason is he didn't want the company first sergeant or the director of the DI school coming down there and stopping them because they weren't supposed to be PTing students punishment-wise. I'm pretty sure that's the real reason. It had nothing to do with distracting students. They could care less about students.
Right.
This seems like this seems like full on fucking hazing, man. I mean, you're there to become a DI, but they are beating you up like you're a recruit.
Yes, and so they give you indelible examples, in case you forgot, of the level of perfection and intensity that you should have. And so I would tell you that I reached a point at the halfway point in training, which is a month in. I really felt like DOR in from the program, but there's no way I could bring shame to my father, who's a Marine, shame to myself for my fellow Marines, but I was hating life, man. If I was lucky, my goal was to make it to the rack, sleep at home at 11:30 at night, 23:30.
Oh boy!
More times than not, I was hitting the rack 00:30, 30 minutes into the new day after midnight, and on a bad night, it was coming up on 0200 or 2 a.m. But I had to get up at approximately 3:45 so I could grab my stuff, be in PT uniform, be parked at the DI school barracks and inside for roll call at 4:30. And even though we weren't following up for PT for another hour. And that was just a very tough program to get through if you're a brown bagger living out in town, because you have the distractions of a family and the travel time to get to and from and whatnot. So it was a tough job as a DI school student. I remembered reading an article of a Navy petty officer first class. He had made it through the program as a Marine drill instructor. So he was a recruit depot commander, RDC. That's what they call enlisted drill instructors in the Navy. And so I guess their program was the best of the best gets to leave and come to Paris Island to go through their DI school under the same standards. So he actually made it through under the correct standards. He's held to the same standard as everybody else and made it. I thought, there ain't no damn way I could live with myself knowing that a squid made it through the program, and I did not. I could not live with myself.
There it is.
So that was that motivation. But I became a team player. I wanted to graduate number 1, and I became so focused on that, and I was doing really good. I mean, I had a high GPA in that class. Most of us were somewhere between 94.5 to about 96 as a total academic score. And I failed a speech exam, techniques of military instruction. And so the reason I failed is I never practiced aloud a 10-minute speech, a demonstration speech. Okay. And so I practiced it in my head until I had the timing down if I was silently reading to myself, but I didn't have the timing down for doing it audibly for others to hear. And I spoke too long. Instructor says, how in the fuck can you fail? There's no reason you should have failed, Crouch. And I told him, I says, well, I'm a team player. I came here with the goal of being number 1 in the class, and somehow I lost focus of that. And I took time that was available for my self-study to help my teammates who are not very good at close order drill. And I was working with them on sword manual, command voice, teach backs, the whole works, because they were struggling in that. And he says, well, you'll be tested tomorrow. You better not fail. Of course, I practiced, for a few hours that speech, and then, nailed it, because you're given a window of 10 seconds before, 10 seconds after the deadline of 10 minutes. And from there, they start deducting points for every 10-second block. And that's how I ended up failing. But then they knew that I was a team player, then I was helping people. Another thing here is uniform inspections. You start with 100 points on day 1 before your first inspection. Every time you had there's 20 inspections, 13 of them are unknown, 7 were known. On this date, this is the uniform that you're going to be inspected in. But the other 13 inspections, they're unknown. You can have 2 in the same day. So it'd be after the first training event of the day, which is always PT, and after the noon meal would be the second inspection. And you'd be out there for formation and they say, fall in. So, no, they'd say fall out and fall into the classroom. Or they would say open ranks march and they'd inspect us. So I was losing points on my uniform inspection, always for the same thing, brass and shoes. Now, I was one of the only people wearing leather shoes. I hate the plastic shoe known as core frames. I do not like them. I think they're weak. I think they're nasty. They're uncomfortable to wear. They're hot as hell in the summer heat. They scuff, and once they get scuffed, you can never get rid of the scuff. I'm a traditional person. I had been wearing polished brass buckle on my web belt for my entire career at that point. And I've been wearing spit shine shoes when it was necessary to wear shoes. And so I told, after one of my inspections, I was called into my squad instructor's office. He said, you're at risk of being put on a review panel. You're not even at the halfway point, and it looks like you're not going to make it through the program because of your uniforms. I said, I have an issue with the fact that I think my work is so good that they don't realize that they're looking at polished brass, giving me bonus points, because you said you get bonus points for polished brass and spit shine shoes, and I've been spit shining my shoes every inspection, and I'm not getting these bonus points. Right. So the same two people who were part of that initial harassment in the office, Wiggins and Marshall, he says, give me your brass. I take the brass off. He looks at it. Now, I had cheated. I used a buffing wheel on a grinder with rouge, and I polished that thing up that it was like, you'd blind your eyes if you looked at it in the sun. And he said, you're telling me this is brass. It says, keep the buckle, put your fingerprints on it, and tomorrow it'll be tarnished. He says, I believe you. And then put my belt back on. He says, let me see your shoes, right? He says, take them off. So I take the shoes off. He grabs one. Gunny Marshall took the other one. He says, watch us. There's more ways to shine shoes than there are to masturbate. That was his term. I've never forgotten that. And so I'm watching these two gunnery sergeants spit shine my shoes. They had different techniques. And they brought it to a much higher luster than I had. But that was great leadership in the sense that they're firm but fair. They're going to do everything they can to make you successful, but they're going to hold you to the standard and not compromise. Nice. And that was something I always carried with me forward, that if DI school instructors can do this, why can't I? Nice. But it was a very tough program to get through. I never lost points again on an inspection, and very happy to, it's the proudest day of my Marine Corps career, I do believe, and that was December 18, 1986. Graduating class 1-87 to become a drill instructor. Very nice. So I just got to ask about this one, though. I said there's I'm assuming a pretty hot young WM, Staff Sergeant Slumko. Yeah. And you lost all attraction to her. At the school, there's 13 instructors. One's a female instructor, so she trains the female DI school students whenever there's physical events going on. Road marches, PT, you name it. Yeah. She's the indelible example for them to emulate, and the males for us. But she's attractive. Blue eyes, probably 5'10", very well fit, and very well built, and had my attention subconsciously and consciously. Well, we're at the end of training in the school. It's now December, early December. Paris Island can get cold in the month of December. And it was probably an outside temperature of like 40 degrees, maybe 38. You know, it was cold. And I had developed, as many people did, upper respiratory snot production. And so I had kept neatly folded a long roll of toilet tissue, right? So I would roll off some on my nose, throw it away when appropriate, so I would not have a runny nose. So I went out there, did platoon movements, marching the platoon around, return sword, march up, go to parade rest, and wait to receive my grade. She's got her clipboard in front of her, and snot is dripping onto the clipboard score sheet. And so, being the chivalrous Marine that I am, I said, Staff Sergeant Slumko, and I reached in my pocket. I have plenty of clean tissue if you'd like some. No thanks, devil dog. I'll let it drip. And at that very moment, with the voice of the devil, saying that she's going to let it drip onto my score sheet, bam! I no longer saw a female. I saw a Marine, a genderless warrior. I completely lost all interest in her from that moment forward. A genderless warrior. Oh, man. But, fantastic. I did that one. I did that one. Did that one. I'm looking at some of these stories about just, I did that. Time management fatigue, yes. Became a team player. I got hundreds of stories, and I shared the bullet line list of what they are.
Well, we've been going quite a while now, so I'd like to actually move into how and why. Why don't you just, go to school and exercise together? And why doesn't that make a Marine? What does it take to become a Marine, and why does it work?
An attendance academy. Who wants to go through an attendance academy? Now, that's K through 12.
That's a lot easier there for a sergeant.
The end product is not.
This is true.
Yes. So I'll tell you how important verbal, emotional stress is, in addition to the physical pain and discomfort of incentive physical training, which is punishment exercises for screw-ups, is the Navy in 1992 or 93, the BRAC committee, Base Realignment Committee from Congress, they put together a committee to evaluate duplicity in the military. Why should there be 4 photography schools? Why not just one and send all branches to the same school? And they did that approach through a lot of things. And then they looked at the Navy and they said, why do you have 2 OCS programs? One aviation officer candidate school and one officer candidate school. And so they put the committee together, and the people on the committee could not be former graduates of either program, which meant they were ROTC from a college earning their commission, or they were from the Naval Academy. Therefore, they came to the conclusion that Florida was the best location to continue the program that would be merged. But they did not want to remove the aviation element, said we can't remove the drill instructor. And the surface Navy said, we don't want the drill instructor. We have our Navy chiefs. We don't want Marine drill instructors creating all that chaos and creating high attrition, because when they looked at the attrition numbers, we had a high attrition rate in aviation officer candidate school. So they somehow were successful in keeping the Marine drill instructor in the program, and we continue to elevate that level of stress. Stress is great for creating a common bond, a common experience, because how do you create teamwork of people who don't know each other and did not ask to be together, but now they are together and they're being held accountable as a group? So you do that by mass punishment, which is no longer encouraged or tolerated. You can no longer torture a platoon for the sins of one or sins of 2 or 3. Those get dealt with individually, but not as a group. But so now you've lost some of that cohesiveness. We all pay. In my opinion, that is something that we lost. The only difference is the drill instructors would encourage or would tolerate blanket parties where recruits would beat up a recruit that was a low performer at night. And that's unprofessional. That's unacceptable. And I had witnessed that myself in boot camp. But to have that shared experience of the verbal wrath, and young men and women, most of them have not been in that type of hostile environment. They didn't get raised by abusive parents or an abusive neighborhood. So they had a idyllic life growing up, and now they're in this hostile environment. Well, we need to ensure that you can speak ballistically at the top of your lungs, because why? During the chaos of combat, you need to be heard. You need to effectively communicate to other people. Therefore, we require that you ballistically shout anything and everything that you are responding to, whether as one or as a whole platoon. And in fact, I used to tell my recruits, and later on my officer candidates, I even had signs in their rooms and in the head, which is a bathroom, that said something to the effect of, when you open your mouth, I better see blood and lung tissue landing on the neck of the candidate in front of you. Because if I don't, I swear to God, you will be tortured beyond death. Sincerely, your drill instructor, Gunner Sergeant Crouch, United States Marine Corps. So they saw that before they even saw me, and just to set that tone. But I was always that way. When you open your mouth, I better see blood and lung tissue coming out, landing, because of that level of force. Because you need to be an effective leader. You can't be an effective leader if you have to be told to speak up, or they don't want to ask you to speak up, but they don't get the message, whatever it is you're communicating. Military is a very noisy life. The equipment that we work around, it's a safety issue. It's important to be able to speak ballistically. How about instant willing obedience to orders? I don't want you to have that freedom of thought of, do I want to do what he just asked of me? Therefore, I need to issue that command in the most threatening, vile manner possible, always followed up with some form of emotional or physical discomfort to drive that point home if it's not to my satisfaction. But it creates a tighter unit, faster. It requires a better end product that is emotionally tough, because there's some people who can't handle being yelled at and they take it personal. And so that's my thoughts on why the persona that is so often put in the movies like Full Metal Jacket, the Boys in Company C, the movie The DI, which to me is one of the most perfect movies of being a drill instructor in 1957.
Jack Webb, 1950s, maybe?
57.
57, okay. Yeah.
So you asked about the, and by the way, people often think he's yelling. He's yelling at me. No, I'm speaking with conviction. I'm speaking with a command voice to be heard. It's like doing 1,000 crunches without fail, because you're learning to use the diaphragm. There's no voice coach when I went through DI school on how to project your voice. So you learn to project your voice out of necessity, because the muscles of the voice box are very small, very thin, and they have the ability to quickly flex the sound coming out of your voice box. Well, if you start ballistically yelling, it quickly atrophies and says, I got nothing left. I can't do anything. I'm paralyzed. There's not another push-up left of me as far as the voice box. But you still have to get your voice out there. So either you do something damaging permanently, which is like with a frog voice. Well, I tell you the command, you do this. That sounds stupid. You sound comical. How can I take you serious? But there's drill instructors who did that because they're lazy, and that was easy. The hard thing is to compress your abdominal muscles, and it pushes a puff of air up and through your voice box enough that when it crosses over your tongue and the roof of your mouth and your lips and the way it's open to create the sound effect that you need. And it can be done hours on end without fail. And that's how you do it properly.
Sure. Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I'm just sitting here in awe. I'm having a ball here.
So you asked a question. You said in your email to me, and what is the process beyond breakdown and build up into a different mode? Is it a scheduled process, or does it fluctuate based on a given platoon's performance?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. So there is nothing that says start backing off, start being nicer, don't get as triggered. Nothing like that exists. And as far as based on a platoon's performance, my goal was not to say, hey, today I'm going to mess their day up. And it was never that way. They have something they call Black Friday, welcome aboard. Every day was the same as far as I was concerned. I communicate what's expected. If I get the performance I want, we continue that training process. If I don't get the performance I want, I let you know why it's not acceptable. And if I don't get the acceptable performance, I may handle it right there. I may hand you off to another drill instructor to get handled with, or I'll take care of you later on. I always kept a 3x5 card in the inside of my campaign cover, or drill instructor hat, and I would write down the turd's name. Let's say repeat, hands in pocket. That'd be sufficient to remember why I should torture you. But as far as a platoon's performance, I know that I wanted to transition and build their self-confidence as we approach initial drill competition, which is close order drill, how you march and how you do facing movements and move the weapon about your body, left shoulder, right shoulder, order arms, present arms, whatnot. And then in final drill, which is at the end of recruit training, the same concept. At OCS, Navy OCS, there's only one drill evaluation, and that was at that time in the Monday of the 7th week. And so what I would do is I would try to do the discipline. I may have terse words that I use and anger in my voice, but I will deal with it later. I didn't interrupt a drill session to actually torture you. And I would get through the end of the drill session, then I'd torture you. Otherwise, if I torture you, your arms are fatigued and you're out of breath and you're not going to do good. Okay. So I had a class 02, 9, or 7 at OCS. And on the first week of their training, because of me, all drill instructors were prohibited from using the word kill. Now, I thought kill is a pretty good word.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. And, killing and drilling, something aggressive. So we were running a platoon, a class down to the PT field for scheduled PT. The director of OCS, who baffles me because he was a AOCS graduate in the 70s, but he had a problem with it. but he also had a psychology degree. So that might be why he had an issue with it, because he worries about the psychology of people. And so he heard this sound, and I heard from him personally, he heard this sound coming down the street. Every other time the left foot hits the deck, the drill foot, the kill foot, right? And he didn't know what it was, but it sounded intense and motivating. And he walked out, and as they got parallel to him, he realized they were shouting kill. And that was a problem for him. Then, of course, on the way back from the PT field, I had them shout kill every other time the left foot hit the deck, kill. And it sounded like shock troops coming through to destroy. So I get the word from the chief drill instructor, Master Gunner Sergeant Holtree. I came up there to see him in his office. He says, Nick, he usually call me Nick all the time, new guy in charge.
Okay.
It's not meant favorably. It means you're a screw up. And so you always bring in negative attention. So he says, Nick, Commander Thielman, I didn't mean to say the name, but the CEO said he doesn't want to hear the word kill anymore. He heard you, and he thought it was a very motivated, tight class, and is really wanted to hear it better. So he walked outside to see this show of intensity and unification and awesomeness. And what he saw was a platoon shouting kill every other time the left foot hit the deck. You are not to ever use the word kill again at any reason for any purpose while you're here. You apologize to that class and let them know that your conduct was unacceptable. So I requested permission to talk to the commanding officer. He says, you don't want to do that. I said, yes, I do. He says, I'm telling you right now, Nick, you don't. I said, well, he can tell me to my face. I want to talk to him. So I got it set up to go see him that day. He said, I understand you want to talk to me. I said, yes. I said, why is it that there's a problem with these officer candidates those who make it to the finish line will be on a ship or maybe in an aircraft, and they're launching rockets and missiles, dropping bombs, shooting guns, and they are killing the enemy? Why is it unacceptable to use the word kill? He said, hopefully they will never learn or have the experience of killing, but those who do can learn about it later on. But here at the schoolhouse, they are not going to have it glamorized, glorified, or spoken in the enthusiastic manner in which they and you were doing it. And so I left defeated, but not for long. I thought, how do I get over this hurdle? I cannot imagine, this is only my second class I'm training. I can't imagine doing another year and a half plus without that level of intensity. And I had the bright idea. In the Marine Corps, we have hand-to-hand combat training with bayonets fixed on the end of a rifle, the M16A2 service rifle. And the step-by-step procedure from the close combat instructor to that group of Marines out there, he'd say, with a horizontal butt stroke, ready, stroke! And they go, yut, yut, yut! And so every time there's a movement, just like in the martial arts, you would execute it with the word yut. Yut is something that is an easy word to say intensely and to create execution and movement that is perfectly timed with great force and energy. So I thought, they told us yut means kill in a foreign language. Well, by golly, we're going to say yut. And so from that day forward, I went and talked to that class and said, first of all, I'm supposed to apologize to all of you by direct order from the commanding officer. So I want you to hear it from my lips. I am sorry that I used the word kill and had you shout the word kill while we ran down the street running PT. I said, how does that make you feel? And their faces looked like they just witnessed a dog being stepped on. And I said, well, does that meet with your approval or not? And they were not enthusiastic at all. And I said, well, if you don't like that, the director of this schoolhouse says it's a problem, and as far as he's concerned, it will not be used, that word kill, ever in any context here at OCS. And so therefore, would you like me to train you to that standard, or would you like to be trained to my standard? Probably 80% of them said, the drill instructor standard, sir. This is an issue that we all have to be 100% on board. And if you're not on board, then we're not doing it. Because I'm putting my career at risk. At this point, I got 16 plus years in the Marine Corps. And I'm putting my career at risk by disobeying a lawful order. So again, are we 100%? Because you can't change your mind later on and say, I got a problem with this.
Right.
They're 100% on board. All right. we will never use the word kill. However, we will pronounce the word yut, Y-U-T exclamation point, bold in all caps. That means kill. That's what we're taught in the Marine Corps at Paris Island, San Diego, and Quantico. That during hand-to-hand combat with fixed bayonet on the end of a rifle or holding bugle sticks, simulating as such, that when we teach step-by-step movements, we say yut. And so when I say anything, when I say yut, you always reply yut, yut, 2 yuts. That says, and when you're out on liberty in a bar, you walk in, you want to know if you're alone or not, just go yut. And if you hear at least a double yut coming back, you got friends, you got backup, and it's not you fighting alone. And so fast forward, it's commissioning day. The commanding officer is the guest speaker. When he can't find somebody, he's the speaker. He comes up to the microphone, he goes, and they all shout. And I thought to myself, he has no idea what he just did. And of course, the newly commissioned officers about to be, they are grinning ear to ear. They're loving it. And the Navy chiefs didn't like it. They didn't. I said, I don't want your Navy chiefs to know about it. The Marines know, and those are the only people you need to know. Do not let your class officers or the Navy chiefs know, and don't talk to other classes what it means. If they simply ask you what's that mean, just simply say, it's our class drill instructor's way of being enthusiastic.
Right
and,
on.
So
well done.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you.
So as far as that all started with the class that did extremely bad or good or recruit platoon. So a few days later, a drill instructor PT'd his class to death, way beyond the authorized SOP limit. And therefore, a lot of sore backs. One candidate got rolled backwards 2 weeks in training because of a lower back injury from doing M1 Garande up and overs, 8-count body movement, 8-count movement, which for those who've done it will tell you it's a very stressful lower lumbar injury.
Yeah.
And so while that was being investigated, we were told we were not permitted to ever PT a recruit for discipline. Officer candidate. And that was stressful. Man, I got a class in their first week of training. I can't say kill, and now I can't PT him for mistakes. You got to be kidding me.
Wow.
So the whole battalion went to hell. Now, they told us that we could tee them under the guidance and supervision of a Navy chief or a Navy officer. There's no way we are going to participate in that neutering. So as far as we're concerned, fine. You think you can train them better than us? We would not ever discipline with physical training that way. So this class, coincidentally, was full of nuclear engineer student nerds. So they're extremely intelligent. They have a great comprehension ability. They ended up setting the close order drill record that was standing at OCS. And we didn't get the privilege to start punishing them until about week number 5 or 6 later. We went about 5 weeks without the privilege of punishing the candidates. But because the whole battalion was now looking like a high school, their behavior, their nastiness, their lack of military deportment, the director relented and allowed us to go ahead and let the dogs of war loose on them. And we tightened them all up. So that was a shock and awe for those who never experienced it, who then came in the weeks following. But they set a drill record with the least amount of punishment PT. And you think, well, why not do that continually? But old habits are hard to break. That record stood for about 18 months.
Right. Oh, man. Well, we have been going a long time, and you've got a lot more stories. Unfortunately, I think Fig has a hard out. So what I'd like to do is have you talk up a little bit about the pressure cooker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So The Pressure Cooker was the first book I published, but the second book that I thought to write. I was writing a book of my own stories, and I interrupted that book so I could write this. I was at a drill instructor reunion in 2000. Joy Stone Emanuel was one of the owners of Stone's Studio, who had been taking photographs of all the classes for 20 plus years. And she inherited from the previous company that was doing it historical archive of negatives and photographs of all the people who went through the program going back to the mid-70s. Wow. She came with 2 milk crates full of 8.5 by 10 glossies and of class photos and mostly of drill instructor team photos. She says, Marines, you can have these. The Navy does not want our archive that we wanted to keep, so we're going to throw it all into the landfill and have it picked up. And I said, well, first of all, no, you're not. I love history, and we're not getting rid of this. I'll collect it and put it in my house, but we're not getting rid of this history. And so I went ahead and made good on that, made 2 trips with a trailer to pick up this incredible collection of film. And I thought to myself, you know what? The story needs to be written. This program died in 1994 and went for 47 years. And wouldn't it be great if we collected the stories of those experiences by the officers who went through the program? So I went on Facebook, and before I set up my own group to collect these stories, I wanted to see if anything existed, and it did. It was AOCS alumni on Facebook. And by the way, if you didn't go through the program, you're not getting in. I have a hard vetting process. No one's, to my knowledge, ever figured out the magic methodology. And I have rosters going back decades. So you're not on there. You didn't come through the program. You're not getting in the group. We want to keep it pure. So those stories were written by the officers. The oldest story I have is 1957, and the most recent is 1990. And I put them in there in chronological order. And it was from the voice, as though you're sitting at a bar or listening to a bunch of story swapping going on. And that's how it is. So if you have issues with the grammar not being absolutely perfect, remember, it's written by a naval aviator who was college educated. And they kept pressing me to have this thing published because they wanted to see the book before they died. And so I went ahead and published the book with some typos in there because it's tough to edit your own stuff, but it's been professionally edited. I just need to upload the edited copy that has perfect grammar in there for the grammar Nazis. But no one seems to complain about it. It's got great reviews. It's in 5 formats: hardcover, soft cover. It's got EPUB, PDF, and Kindle. You can get it from a website, lulu.com, LU.com.
Nice.
It has nothing to do with yoga. There's something very similar, Lululemon, but no, lulu.com. You can spend a couple extra dollars and get it from Amazon, and because they jack up the price on things. So I always I have a custom-made autograph sticker I put on the inside that's color. It's got First Sergeant Chevron. It's got drill instructor campaign cover with cross swords, as I recall. And it says, Marine Corps trained, Navy owned. Damn proud of it. And because that's how they feel. They're damn proud of that title, Marine Corps trained, Navy owned. So love the stories. I love reading them. The hilarity is intense. The storytelling becomes more intense as the years went by. I made the title of every story the year that it was written, that experience, and then hyphenated, and then whatever title I gave the particular story. And it starts getting intense around 1968. And then it picks up again with great intensity with the arrival of Sergeant Mike Clark, retired Master Gunner Sergeant, C-130 Navigator. Yep. And I would give anything to have worked with him. Oh, the stories about him are amazing. I mean, having an ambulance follow them around at PT with the lights flashing, you name it. This guy did incredible things that would not be tolerated today. And it's unfortunate. But 1970s, mid-70s, it really picks up in intensity, seems to peak out in the late 80s, and it finishes off with 1990 as the last story.
What a
I only wrote
read.
2 stories. Yeah. The voice I'll never forget at the beginning, which is the voice of your drill instructor. And then the last one, I could have been a better drill instructor based on some of the stories I read in there.
Wow. Well, outstanding. Well, hey, before we get too far down the line, I want to say, I know we said this before, but thank you for your service.
And thank you for yours. It was a pleasure to get paid to do what we did, to have fun. You know, I walked the flight line every day in my first squadron, the MFA 323, the Death Rattlers, F-4 Phantoms. I said it aloud, or I said it, and under my breath, just not for everyone to hear, or I thought it in my head more times than not, multiple times. I can't believe I get paid to do this, because there's nothing more fun than being on a flight line with jet fighters.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
I know you both can.
Absolutely.
I can't believe we get paid to do this.
Right.
And hey, a quick thank you to all of our listeners who are either active service members, veterans, and absolutely to their families who supported them and support them so that they can do what they do.
Right. Yeah, that sacrifice is huge, even from the families. So thank you to all who have lost all sense of judgment and reached into their pockets and given us money so that we can keep this show coming to you. We're deeply grateful to those of you who've gone to the sotheriwas.us/Patreon or to our direct donor page and parted with your hard-earned money to help keep bringing this show to you. Keeping our fuel tanks fuel is a big deal. So become a tanker aircraft commander like First Sergeant Crouch did. If you want to send me 34 pounds of coins.
The most unique way.
Again, fantastic, brilliant, and creative. So thank you.
Big thanks to Brad Silcott,
Badass.
EDS Aviation, a.k.a. Badass, for letting us use his outstanding photographs.
It's more like art than photos. Yeah.
Oh, it is more like art. Absolutely.
If you want to help spread the show and put something cool in your hands, go to sotheriwas.us/giveaway. The July giveaway is running. We're giving away 4 copies of Takeoffs and Landings by Alger Pete Peterson, who spent 30 years in the Air Force from the 50s through the 80s. So we're thrilled to be able to give copies of that book away. sotheriwas.us/giveaway.
And it wouldn't be right if we didn't say thanks to Sticks and Bago, who I don't think they're here today, are they?
No, I don't. No. This new recording platform has made things.
They are the high IQ members of this team, and they're usually making magic happen in the background. I think we just lost them today.
Yeah. We'll get them back, and they're helping. Bago's doing the Facebook page for us, and Sticks has helped with a lot of production, helped us get some guests. So all good stuff. So yeah, thanks to them. And then seems like there's a couple more I always seem to forget, but there's a big hint. One.
That is the music of the Dos Gringos, the 2 Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good.
That's right.
They let us use their music. They've been on our show. Actually, we just had a show with them when they did their concert out in Denver.
Yep.
So thank you for letting us use your music. And if you haven't listened to the Dos Gringos, not a bad song on any one of their 4 albums.
No, fantastic stuff. I want to say, I think that was the 14th of June or something like that. We're going to piss on that.
It was the 7th.
The concert was the 7th, but I think so that would have been the 13th of June the show came out. So
yes,
yeah.
Sorry.
So it's the show title is We're Going to Piss on That, and it's a good reason why. So anyway, Fig, until next week. Yut.
Yut, yut.
First Sergeant Crouch out.
Yut.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. When you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hold on. It's what?
It's over.
Did your parents have any children that lived?
Sir, yes, sir.
I bet they regret that. You're so ugly you could be a modern art masterpiece. What's your name, fat body?
Sir, Leonard Lawrence, sir.
Lawrence what, of Arabia?
Sir, no, sir.
That name sounds like royalty. Are you royalty?
Sir, no, sir.
And we'll cut it off there in case there are any kids listening. We are out.